Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello and welcome to episode 272 of the AFTN podcast. I am designated penalty taker Joe Deasy. Across from me, he is a regista, it's Nicholas Ruprecht.
I am, yes. My favorite position.
And calling in from Surrey, he's an impact sub, it's Gideon Hill.
Oh yeah, you know it. 70th minute, here we come, boys.
All about game management is our Gideon.
Yes, of course.
Gentlemen, today's
Bravo way.
today's opening question. If you had to be stuck on a desert island with a notable MLS duo, which duo would you choose and why? Gideon?
I chose Diego Valeri from the Portland Timbers and Albert Elise from the Houston Dynamo because Valeri's, he likes to pick his spots. He's kind of, a little bit quick at attacking things, and Albert Elise because he's nicknamed the Panther.
Oh.
So, that speaks for itself.
So you've gone for like a hunting orientated.
Yes,
question.
exactly.
I'm glad you didn't pick two players that are on the same team because I didn't do that either. But yeah, good answer. Nick, what did you go for?
I went a little bit off the board here with Don Garber and Gulati.
Oh.
Because I think they wouldn't be stuck on an island for that long. So if I was just in the general vicinity,
There's plenty of people that want them stuck on an island. Okay, interesting answer. And they would know a guy that would know a guy. Yeah.
that could grease some palms to get something.
Absolutely. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this question. As I always do, I spend way too much time. I think the group dynamic is very important, right? You don't want to be stuck with people that you can't get along with. And for me, because I'm a very proud person, I need to be the smartest person in the group. So I went with Clint Dempsey and Liam Ridgewell. So we could be stuck on a desert island together. And yeah, things would go great. So that was the opening question. The ice has been broken. We now go to part one of our show. It's Complete the Sentences, where we review the Whitecaps' last game, last month, last whatever, in 3 sentences. So I will say a sentence to the two guys, and they will let me know what they would fill in the blank with. Sentence number 1 this week, and we'll go to Gideon first. I think blank is having a great season.
I think Teixeira is having a great season.
Oh, that's some recentism there. Nick, who's having a great season?
I think Felipe is having a great season.
Okay. I think Davies is having a great season. Or Franklin. No, well, Davies for sure.
Davies for sure.
Blundell, not too bad. Just 1 goal.
Very good.
Yeah. quite okay. Absolutely average.
Yeah.
Second sentence. This drawing run will continue for blank games. Nick?
I said 0 games.
So you think this will be the game?
I think this will be the game that it's either going to be a win or a loss.
Not committing to one or the other yet. Gideon, what about you?
I said it's going to continue for 1 more game.
Okay, I went for the same, 1 more game. This is exactly the kind of game that the Whitecaps will draw. My favorite Teixeira goal was the... Nick?
Rebound header.
The rebound header, okay. Gideon?
Such a little guy.
Yeah.
Header.
I said the tap in from the cross because how many ex-strikers of the Whitecaps, Darren Maddox, would sky that one there, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Was that the one that Dion crossed it in and then he roofed it?
No, it was the one from the right. The cross.
Oh,
I
yes.
forget who it was now.
Okay. My one was the one from De Jong. I watched the highlights, so I can't remember which one was first. The one that De Jong crossed in, and he just thumped it.
The volley.
Yeah. There were 3 really good goals.
Yeah.
So that concludes the entire Whitecap season so far. Now we move on to what we're here to do. Preview. Not the sexiest of games this week. Not even the weekend. It's Friday night. It's another Friday game. Colorado. If you think it's bad being a Whitecaps fan, try being a Colorado fan. Dead last in the league. They're 2-7-2. That's 7 defeats. Yeah, it's not going well in Colorado, is it, Gideon?
No, I think, as we'll get into it, kind of hash it out here, is that, again, a new coach, unlike last week, Brad Friedel, he's found success. Hudson hasn't, though, of Colorado, so I think it just depends on the team you have, and you made a plethora of new signings this year, so maybe this isn't the year that they're going to find, obviously, success with those players, but I think you have to give them a little bit of time.
Nick, they've lost their last 6 games. That's pretty damning, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. They put up a fight last game, though.
Yeah, 3-2 to Portland. Yeah.
Just to read through the other results so we can get the full context. This losing run started with a 3-0 loss to Real Salt Lake. Then they lost 2-1 to Orlando, who are doing pretty well. Kansas only beat them 1-0, so those are 2 okay results. Then they lost to the Red Bulls 2-1, and then they lost to NYCFC 4-0, and then 3-2 to Colorado Rapids. That's not, there's some good teams in there. You can't really mistake that.
Yeah,
but they haven't picked up a single point, though.
But, yeah, that's a problem. Obviously, they do not look playoff bound.
No, that's very safe to say. Yeah, new coach, Gideon, we mentioned him a little bit earlier. Anthony Hudson came in, former New Zealand coach. A pretty interesting qualification campaign. They went to the playoff like they always do, and they didn't make it. I think Peru beat them. He came into quite a bit of furore. Remember, Gideon, in the off season?
Yeah, and I think that was a pretty good pickup for Colorado, and an international coach with a good pedigree. New Zealand obviously being a good team making it to the playoffs, so losing to Peru, as you guys mentioned, but I think it was a good hire for them. He signed some New Zealanders as well, like Wynn and Tommy Smith. So we'll see if those signings work out. But I mean, I feel like he did a good job getting players in, but they just haven't really found the key to winning games yet.
I think Wynn was a good pickup. Like when Whitecaps 2 folded, I guess is the right word. He was one of the players that was probably earmarked for going down to Fresno, but an MLS team came calling, right?
Gotta take your chance.
You have to take your chance, and he's playing in a back 3 with Tommy Smith, as Gideon said. Dominic Badji is leading the team, 5 goals, 1 assist. He's been there for a while. He's been sitting on the bench. The only reason I know that is because I used to pick him up because he was one of the cheapest fantasy league players. Because towards the end you're just trying to fill your roster with nobodies, and he was one of them. But he's not a nobody now. 5 goals, 1 assist, and he's really coming good for them.
Yeah. A lot of his goals, though, came with that hat trick, though.
Yeah.
So he's a pacey guy, and you can't let him get in behind you.
Yeah. Well, he has more goals than any Whitecap, am I saying?
Teixeira, I think, has 5.
Okay, Teixeira does have 5. Teixeira just got that hat trick, too, though.
Teixeira got a hat trick, so kind of,
My analysis says they are basically the same player. They play a 3-5-2. Joe Mason is the other guy. Good Irish lad. Used to play for Cardiff in the championship. Just a busy forward. Other important players, they have Gashi.
Very good technically.
Oh, he scored that free kick in BC Place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting right behind the goal, in the south side, just watching that free kick go in. I couldn't believe that. Did that win goal of the season, Gideon?
I did that year.
It did. It was nuts. It was a postage stamp free kick. It was probably Usted in goal at that point, and he just didn't. I don't think he moved. It was so good. Gideon, any other players that you think we should watch out for?
I like what you mentioned about Badji there. He's done really well this season, not on the bench anymore, and he's actually kept their new DP, Yannick Boley, on the bench most of the year, which is pretty significant for a guy that came in from China for some big money. So I think that's good for Badji, and I think more of this Colorado team is a complete, attacking team. They don't really have one guy to look out for. Jack Price has performed really well this year, their newest midfielder, and I think just a complete team Whitecaps are going to have to defend as a unit.
I think I watched a few minutes of the NYCFC game. I think it was on the weekend, so I just caught a bit of it. And I saw Bully play. He doesn't look too bad. If he's being kept out of the team by Badgie, though, it either says Badgie's having an amazing season or he's not doing enough to get in the team. 3-5-2, is it trendy anymore, Nick, or are we past it? Have we moved on to something else?
I guess I think it's still trendy.
If Colorado are playing it.
If Colorado are playing it.
That's
clearly.
and in Who Scored, that's the only formation they have listed, which means they haven't even tried another formation.
Yeah, I don't know if this team has a lot of ideas going forward, though. They seem to rely on that kind of pump it forward, let Badgie try to run onto it. I don't know how much width they are getting out of their wide midfielders either.
Well, you need those in a 3-5-2. You need those wide players really to
cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, and
right.
Gideon, their backline isn't the most experienced either, right?
Yeah, MLS experience, no. They've had some experience in Europe with Wilson and Smith, but I think just, again, transition MLS is a huge deal. And with a newer midfielder in front of them, the defense hasn't really performed to the standards that maybe Hudson and the Colorado Rapids fans have hoped.
And, when your line of defense fails, what you need is a good goalie. And Colorado do not have a good goalie right now. Tim Howard is probably the most uninspiring player in the entire league. Like, he just doesn't look like he's trying.
Yeah. I mean, he's on a DP contract,
it seems like an easy thing to say, but it just looks so true week after week.
I mean, yeah. I think, that's one thing about this Colorado team. I don't think it's necessarily the team that's the problem, but I think sometimes it's more their front office moves. Like, they can make really smart moves, but then, picking up a DP goalie, like...
Well, it was more of a marketing signing than anything.
Yeah,
but
that
still...
was a couple years ago, too, so, obviously age has happened.
And who was it that that guy, the German guy who plays for the States, Jermaine Jones, he played for them for, like, a season too, right? Like, that didn't look good either. Like, he was in the midfield, and then he was at fullback, and then it just really wasn't a happy union there.
But they also traded Sam Cronin to Minnesota, right? And I think that was a bad trade.
Probably.
I think he's a very serviceable midfielder.
And they lost
minimum.
They lost Kevin Doyle too.
Yeah.
Because of his concussion issues. And he was one of their, probably as a franchise, looking at the franchise, probably one of their most consistent performers. I know watching him for Ireland, he never gave the defender a second. He was like kind of like that Juarez type of player that just closed down at all times. The one threat they do have on the wing, Gideon, is Edgar Castillo. He's having a pretty okay season, plays on the left in that 3-5-2, but the 3-5-2 formation doesn't lend itself for wingers to thrive, does it?
No, and I think that's where the breakdown of the Colorado Rapids backline comes from, is that they have Wynn and Castillo normally playing in the same lineup, meaning that Wynn's more of an outside back, playing as a central center back, and Castillo's playing more as a left mid rather than a left back. So I think it was a good signing for them, as you mentioned, for kind of the PR standards, but he just hasn't really performed up to what people were hoping this season.
I think that's across the board too, right? Like not a lot of these players are hitting the heights they should be hitting.
Yeah. Again, he came from Liga MX, so also a former U.S. men's national team player. So I think and current as well. Yes, he was.
Really? They had a good win the other day, actually. The US
against Bolivia, 3-0.
Yeah. Lots of those European
players too.
Yeah, can't wait for the Canadian Premier League. Anyway, in the center of the park, Jack Price, he's having an all right season, not spectacular, but he leads the team in key passes, in crosses, and in long balls. A staggering 8.2 long balls a game.
Wow, that's a lot.
I think he probably leads the team in key passes because one or two of them will probably make it through, and that counts as a key pass, right? Yeah. One of those long balls. Yeah. Gideon, is he a creator or a destroyer? What do you know?
I think he's a creator/destroyer. The long balls kind of jumps out to you as a guy that maybe sits a bit deeper. Yeah. Likes to get forward, once in a while, and either he's a lazy player for playing all those long balls and finding success, or he's just really good at passing the ball.
Or he has nothing. It's nothing to pass to. He just has to pump it.
That's true.
Yeah. There's some other constants that we've seen over the seasons. Axel Soderberg,
he had an injury and he's kind of.
I'm not sure if he's back in the lineup, but he's still on the roster.
He's coming back from that injury, and he
Okay.
was a fantastic defender.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. He like lanky, but somehow got into
Mhm.
position in the right place at the right time. Marlon Hairston, who satisfactorily does have nice hair. That was way too much words for a joke. Jack McBean, I think we mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
He's having an all right season. Zach McMath is their backup goalie.
Still?
Yeah, but like he should be starting.
He should
ahead
be
of
starting.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
Absolutely.
Yeah, he should be starting.
Like, at what point do you drop Tim Howard and put in Zach McMath?
yeah.
You know, Johan Bloomberg is there. He's having an okay season, 2 assists in the season, not too bad. But like we mentioned this earlier, just a team of underperforming players, and I don't think the coach is
But then
doing enough to.
But then I would argue if you underperform consistently,
Yeah,
are you not underperforming
But
anymore?
I think in this league, at the start of the season, every team should be like, we want to make the playoffs this season.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's the MLS and anything can happen.
Yeah, and you know the league is set up so that you can
Bounce back.
pretty fast. But for some reason, Colorado are never, well, not never, but almost never there at the end of the season, right? Yeah. Gideon, what do you think? What's the point of Colorado Rapids' existence?
Well, I think they've found success in their years in MLS. You know, they made the conference finals against the Galaxy and beat them a couple years ago. They I believe they won an MLS Cup.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've had success in their history, but I think just it boils down to, Oscar Pereira leaving for
Oh yeah,
FC
that was
Dallas, and they haven't really had a whole lot of success since he left.
How long ago was
And,
that?
I think two seasons ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that.
think this is his third season in charge of Dallas. So.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a good coach. You can see by the way he's coaching that Dallas team that, like, sure, last year they lacked a bit of direction, but this year they've been a lot better.
A lot better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but do you think
It's the same
Anthony?
team too as well in Dallas? So.
Yeah, do you think Anthony Hudson is the guy to take him forward?
Hard to argue. I think there's coaches that have used to be in this league that could come in and maybe help him out as a assistant coach.
Yeah, reputation-wise,
just-
he has probably one of the best reputations of a coach in the league. Right, he's managed at the international level to moderate success.
Yeah. But I think
Yeah, that's true.
there's more structural problems in
Absolutely.
Colorado.
Yeah.
In terms of their front office, like going back to that Oscar Pereira thing, like why would you let him go? I mean,
Yeah, but there's a level of like if a coach wants to go or if a player wants to go,
and
you
again,
almost have to let him go.
I know, but like at the same time, you should do everything to keep like a good. You can see what a good coach can do in the MLS,
And it says something that he would want to go to another team, right?
Yeah.
He sees the other team as a better project.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, all this chat has been very nice, but now it's time for the highlight of the show. It's time for this week's Do You Know Who I Am? Welcome to Do You Know Who I Am? It feels like it's been a while, but I think we did this last week.
Yeah.
Is it 6-4 or something?
I think it's 6-4
To Gideon.
Yeah.
Gideon's on quite the
he's-
run right
yeah.
now. I think you were down 4-1 at some point, and look at it
Yeah.
now. A Manchester United-esque comeback. Just had to put that in there. Okay, this evening's Do You Know Who I Am is a beauty, as it always is. So, in case this is the first time you're listening to the show, Do You Know Who I Am? I give the lads some clues about a player, and the first person to say stop and successfully guess the player that I'm talking about gets the point. And as we mentioned, Gideon is now leading for the season 6-4. Okay, gentlemen, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get a pre-match press conference. Nick, what's on your mind?
I just want to get a draw.
Gideon, what's the key? Are you going to go in strong at the beginning or what?
I think I'm going with the Whitecaps approach. If you're drawing and not losing, that's okay. So we'll see what happens.
Just don't take your shirt off in the celebration when you're on a yellow card already.
That's
okay.
true. I'll probably lose in that case.
Yeah. I am from Scotland. Doesn't narrow it down at all. I started my career at Newcastle United. Okay. I am now retired.
Stop.
Yes?
Barry Robson?
No. Okay. Let's see where I was. Go. I am a defender. I am shorter than Nick and Joe.
That doesn't help.
Just a fun fact I came across in my research. I have played on both sides of the Tyne Weir Derby. I played for one MLS team that wears red. Okay. This is tougher than I thought it would be. I'm now a pundit on TSN.
Stop.
Yeah.
It was Stephen Caldwell.
It is Stephen Caldwell. That was a tricky one. That was a historical MLS, like a throwback. 7-4 to Gideon. Will Nick ever get a point again? No.
Probably not.
I think we need a post-match presser on how
No, he's going to throw something at me like that time that Cesc Fabregas threw a pizza at Sir Alex Ferguson in the post game. Well, that was this week's Do You Know Who I Am?
Hi, I'm Carl Robinson. You're listening to the AFTN podcast.
Welcome back to episode 272 of the AFTN podcast. We just reviewed all the threats that the Colorado Rapids have, and also played Do You Know Who I Am? Gideon came out a winner again. Thoughts on the game, Gideon?
You know what? It was a tough contest. I think Joe had it in the bag to have an own goal for us. But you know what? That TSN clue is just golden, absolutely golden, lifesaver.
That's why it was at the end. It's all about fine lines, right, Nick?
Yes.
Actually, whoever put up that fine lines banner on the south side, major props. It's hilarious. Okay, now we go to the meat of the show. It's time to preview the Caps. Nick, they're looking a lot better, but they can't get a win. Can they beat Colorado?
Well, my opinion is if you don't beat Colorado, you don't belong in the playoffs.
Yeah, and quite fittingly, if they lose this game and other results go against them, they will fall out of the playoff bracket, which is kind of shocking, right, Gideon?
Yeah, and I think to Nick's point, that's if you don't beat Colorado, the last place team in the league, you have some problems after drawing four. You haven't lost in 4 games, but you also haven't won. So I think that the Whitecaps still have a little bit of pressure on themselves and from the fan base and the people around Vancouver to win this game. And it's a road game, but without Waston. But I think we set up the right way, we can get a win.
Nick, the Whitecaps are 2 games away from tying the all-time drawing run record in MLS.
So you think they're just going for draw streak?
It's all about trophies, man.
It's all about records.
Yeah. When you go down in the history books, people
Draw City,
BC. It's what will be the fans' reaction if they don't get a win, right? Like it's kind of.
Well, I mean, yes, the games have been entertaining, but again, at the same time, like we've said, you could have just won one of those games and
Yeah.
lost the other ones, and you could have got the same amount of points. So,
but as far, Gideon, as how the fans feel, what do you think? Another, let's say negative result. Let's count a draw as a negative result. Another negative result. What does that make you feel as a fan, first and foremost?
Antsy is definitely one way to describe it. Unsure of how to feel. From more of a group perspective is.
I'm going to chuck helpless.
What's going to happen from here?
I'm going to chuck helpless in there. Helpless was at this. If we draw 5 in a row, then there's a problem that just isn't being fixed, right? We've played a mix of opposition, but we're not getting results in any sense, right? Nick, do you think how do you think the players are feeling? Do you think they think it's good enough that we're just drawing all these games?
No, obviously you're paid to win.
Yeah.
What player would go onto the field being like, well, especially in MLS, and especially when you're playing at home.
Yeah.
It's quite obvious from the press conference statements also after
but
trainings that they want to win.
I get that. But this is an away game. They won't have that home
Yeah,
fan
fair
pressure.
enough. There's less pressure to win.
away from home.
Yeah. And I don't think if they lost this result or it was a draw, that's going to be catastrophic.
No.
It's going to be more if there's fans in the stands and they're walking away saying, well, that was terrible.
I think that is the biggest thing a fan can do is, vote with their feet kind of a thing.
Yeah.
There's some players that are kind of underperforming. Namely, I'm just going to put the name out there that we've put down to discuss is Kamara, right? He had a shocking game. Gideon, do we bench him now? Is that what should happen?
No, I think you can kind of draw comparisons from years past where a guy like maybe Montero last year didn't have a good couple of games, and if we would have benched him, he might have gotten frustrated. But I think Kamara's the kind of player where he works himself, gets himself better, and he figures it out his own way rather than benching the guy that we brought in to score goals and try to fix the problem. I think he needs to play, and maybe don't bring him out of the lineup. Maybe bring somebody in like a Blondell to try and change the dynamic of the attack rather than letting Kamara do it all or let him blame himself for not having success.
Returo has a question, and it is, are we at the point where the question is not should we be benching Kamara, but how long we should be benching Kamara, Nick?
I think this is a bit of a silly question because, like Gideon was getting towards, he's getting into good positions to score.
But form comes into it at a point.
He's just not finishing. But form goes in swings.
Yeah.
Eventually the swing is going to go the other way.
But you play your in-form players if you want to win the game.
But is Blondell in form?
We don't know because he hasn't been
By that logic, we should play Teixeira up top.
Not up top. Play players in their best positions. Play Teixeira on the wing. Teixeira's going to start this game because he's in good form. That's what I think should happen, right? We don't know who's more informed. We're not at training, right? If Kamara is having a shocker every training session too.
But it was only a shocker in that, he missed
two golden chances.
Yeah, absolutely. That's bad.
Yeah.
But that was in one game.
But not benching him as a punishment, right? Benching him as trying to get the best out of the team, right? There's a line there, right? I'm not saying, he sucks, let's get him out of the team, right? He has a very important role to play on this team. But there is a point where you have to put a player who you think can perform better, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think any of us are in a position to really answer that question with a great degree of, with a very educated answer because we're not there day in, day out. We don't know, the minutia of how that squad works. But I think there is something there that if we are going to play with this, 4-4-1-1 or whatever you want to call it, where Reyna is buzzing behind, that when you only have one striker, at some point we know that Reyna and Blondell can link up really well. Maybe you put them together. What are your thoughts on that, Gideon?
Yeah, and my problem with the Kamara discussion is, again, if he's playing bad and not scoring, it's different than playing good and not scoring. I think if he's playing good and not scoring, then I keep him in there. But there's no reason not to have Blondell in the game. Maybe give Kamara a game off, bring him in late, and as a super sub later on in the game. But I think Blondell deserves a start. Kamara, it's not that he's playing terrible. He just, sometimes a player needs a game to just realize, maybe look at from the bench perspective of where the ball is and how he can maybe finish that chance a little better and kind of see a different perspective of the game.
Kamara did say at the start of the season that if he was not playing well, he would expect to be dropped. It was just one of those questions that he was asked during an interview. I think you can't blame Robbo if he does a bit of rotation. It's an away game, right? Against a lesser opposition, but we do need 3 points.
To be fair, the Whitecaps' MO is to rotate anyway, so
yeah, away from home more than anywhere else. All right, we were going to do this a little bit later, but Blondell. We have also had a question about Blondell. It was Gareth. He said, Gareth Wolf would be very interested to see if this 2-striker formation with Blondell and Reyna up front from the start looked good against SKC before they were torpedoed by the rest of the team. And that's when Reyna was in much worse form. Could that Reyna-Blondell partnership that we only saw for 20 minutes, bear some fruit for the Whitecaps away from home, Nick?
Against the Colorado defense, and I think so. Especially because they're much less experienced than the SKC defense. SKC defense, you got Opara.
Yeah.
And you got Beasler.
They were fantastic.
And they play well.
Yeah.
So I think this is actually maybe a great opportunity for those two to link up, see what they can do at playing with their feet, and hopefully, pull that defense apart in addition to, whatever we can get going down the wings as well.
Gideon, to put you on the spot here, if I had to task you with putting all three players in one team, what formation would you set up with? I'm talking about Reina, Kamara, and Blundell.
I was actually thinking about that a minute ago. I think it would be a 4-3-1-2.
Okay.
With Reina sitting in behind, kind of make a 3 with not a 4-3-3, but more of like an attacking with the defensive 3 midfielders.
Yeah, but then you're putting a lot on the fullbacks, and
that's the problem. You have to have the right players in there, like a Franklin and a De Jong, who know how to defend against lots of pressure.
What about a 4-4-2 diamond, Nick?
Like a narrow diamond?
Yeah,
or
I mean, there's ways around
wider
it,
diamond.
and I think but the reason I go with the 4-3-1-2 is because we need a defensive midfielder in.
Yeah, that's true. There's always a defensive midfielder in Robbo's strategies. But the 4-4-2 diamond would have a defensive midfielder, just nobody else. But that would be kind of seeding the midfield. Mm-hmm. They're playing a 3-5-2 actually, so we can't stretch the midfield out too much.
No.
That would be putting way too much, especially with Waston missing. You don't want to be trying something different. So yeah, we know we're going to be playing against a 3-5-2. I think we can pretty much expect that. Which formation in our repertoire is the best one to go for?
Anything where you're pulling them wider, I think is good.
Okay.
I don't really have any particular problem or any of those formations really work well.
We've been a wing team this year.
But it's mostly about, you're basically ceding the middle of the park to them in certain various degrees. Like if you set up with a 4-2-3-1, you'll be more defensively responsible.
But do they have players that can hurt us in the midfield, Gideon?
I mean, we talked about Price. I think Mason's been playing as a striker, so there's not a whole lot of creativity there that'll kind of pick the Whitecaps apart. But again, certainly, as Nick mentioned, there's a lot of danger on the wings with Badji and Gashi if he does play. So I think in that sense, we need 2 players out wide on either side.
Nick, we're going to play against 2 strikers, and we'll be missing our best defender. So what kind of changes are going to happen in that back line?
Well, I think Mon should definitely step in. I think he has been patiently waiting in the wings, and I think he should have another chance to show that the form at the beginning of the season that he had wasn't, a fluke or anything like that.
With Aha partnering him?
Yeah, I think that would be a good partnership. It seemed to work early in the year.
And Daniil Henry's back on loan from Ottawa.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be on the bench.
I think he'll be on the bench as like a depth.
And Gazal behind them in the pecking order for center back?
Yeah, I didn't particularly like Gazal at center back. That was not a great outing for him.
Gideon, other areas of concern that we should see some rotation in to give chances to some rotation players? What do you think?
Just to touch on what you guys talked about there with the center back, I think Robbo was smart in playing Gazal beside Waston there on Saturday, knowing Waston's going to be gone for a while and seeing what Gazal can do there. Obviously didn't work out, so probably not going to have a Gazal in the center back position, but I wouldn't mind seeing Aha and Henry there. And in midfield, I mean, Tiber didn't have a bad game. Felipe was literally everywhere on every blade of grass, and I think, or turf, I should say, but
every plastic blade of grass.
That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't change a whole lot. I mean, probably fresher players, maybe Nowinski.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about next. I think Franklin has had a good run, but I think Nowinski needs a chance to take a claim.
Well, last game he didn't look too great.
Yeah, but like Nowinski, I don't really know if he did anything to lose his spot to begin with, right? Like without being reactionary or anything like that. Like we have 2 good options at fullback, but
that's true.
This game might require someone like Nowinski to cover more on defense. But then again, Franklin's an experienced defender, so it's like a win-win situation if you really take a step back. But I would like to see Nowinski just on form.
I think it would be a good game for Nowinski as well because it's a team that's kind of struggling. Maybe he can, whip in some crosses.
Yeah. Which brings us to our next discussion point. What aspect of the game should we see more of? We saw a lot of crosses and goals. Do we keep going with that?
Well, I guess crosses are that low percentage chance. So, and I like to play the odds, so I don't particularly like them.
But with Felipe in the middle, just to kind of as a second option.
Yeah, I think the key though is being able to vary your attack.
Yeah.
And not just solely relying on crosses.
Yeah.
But if we have that second option, like if Reina's playing, I feel a little bit more comfortable that there's more creativity to get towards the middle of the field, to get towards the top of the box, and those danger areas.
Gideon, what do you want to see more of from the Caps?
I think I want to see more of knowing what to do after a goal is scored.
You mean celebrating,
or opening bit of the game.
You're not happy with how the celebrations are?
No, I meant start from the opposing team, like getting a goal. Is what I mean. I think it's great that they responded, but more often than not, you want to be in the lead rather than be from behind. And I think when the Whitecaps go behind, sometimes it's press, and try and score a goal. Other times it's wait a little bit, kind of feel at the opposition, then go for it. And what we kind of saw on the weekend when New England scored the second goal right after halftime was, now we should get going. But it's more of like, what do we do initially after that first goal rather than wait a little bit and allow a second goal?
You mean like game management in general?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I don't feel the Caps have a great game management style at all. Like, not just seeing out a game, but like...
Considering they've almost gotten 5 draws,
that's
true. They've been more reactionary to games that they've been playing than anything. I mean, credit to them for coming back from deficits so much, but still, you're digging yourself into that hole, and like Gideon said, why keep doing that?
Yeah. I don't know if this is the game that will change, but it's certainly one of the best chances we're going to get in a long time. The one aspect of the game that I've kind of noticed, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the same thing, but there's been a desire to press higher up the field a little bit more. A few more like midfield traps in the defensive midfield position for the opposition, and then some fullback trapping as well. Do we like that? I think it leaves us exposed a little bit sometimes. The second wave of pressing isn't there.
But I think it's good because the Whitecaps are switching it up a little bit. I think teams have kind of figured out our very compact, low block just in front of our own box. Yeah. Basically, I think teams they know about that. They figured it out. So there's nothing wrong with springing a different surprise on you. And pressing is a fad. And I think what was it that was said about pressing? Pressing is a great playmaker. Yeah, absolutely. If you can press in the right way and you can win the ball back in the right spots, it can be very useful.
I'm just going to read the Caps' next 3 games after this and tell me your thoughts on them, okay? We have Orlando at home, Philly away, and then Colorado at home again. Tricky, right?
All scary. Colorado is bottom of the league, but I don't think that's, they're a good team. They built out well. Orlando City, one of the better teams in the league this year. They had that win streak, I think it was 5 games a while ago. And, Philadelphia away has always been an interest, and they've been fun games to watch. We've won one, and I think drew another one 4-4 or something like that. So it's fun games to watch. Tough games, but I think probably 2 wins out of those 3 I would be happy with.
Would you take 3 draws?
I would certainly not take 3 draws.
All right. Well, any closing thoughts on the Whitecaps, Nick?
Yeah, I think this is a game for them to turn it around. The season wasn't going so great, and there was a lot of rancor from the fans, and I think rightly so. And they've kind of stabilized the ship with these draws, and I think now is the time to show a way forward.
Gideon, closing statements?
I think we talked about the high press quickly. If we score 3 goals in the weekend and we do a high press, I think there's no reason to stop that, especially if you're on the road against Colorado.
And for me, I think you learn a lot about the players' mentalities in a run like this. And some players have reacted really well, like Teixeira. To be honest, I didn't expect him to react well because in the past he hasn't always reacted very well. But this will be a really big game. They've had a week to think about this, a week to approach this game. Away from home, we're really going to learn a lot about this team in this coming game. Which takes us to the last part of our show, the prediction game. Mixed results last week. We'll go through them one by one. Both Nick and Gideon got on the board, and I did not, which will make the season standings really interesting. Gideon, you said that Brian Rowe would have 5 saves, and he only had 2. You said that Zahibo would have a yellow card, which didn't happen, and that Reyna would have 3 key passes, and yes, he did. He did indeed.
Heck yeah, woo!
That's a very impressive.
That's an impressive one.
The vague key pass stat came through. Gazal would have 5 tackles, Nick. He had 6, but we're giving it to you because that's very impressive. Felipe assist didn't happen, but he probably deserved something.
Some credit. He gets credit.
And a Whitecap set piece goal didn't happen, unfortunately. I said that Waston would have a yellow card. My theory was that he wouldn't care about the suspension because he was going to the World Cup. So he's 1 yellow card from a suspension. Davies less than 3 dribbles. He had 5. And Anibaba yellow card did not happen. So the season standings for the prediction game, I'm on 10 points, Gideon's on 7, and Nick's on 6. Nick, let's get your predictions for this week.
Okay, I think Tim Howard...
Oh, please say red card.
No, I think he will have 3 saves. I think he'll have 3 saves.
Okay.
I think Reyna will have 1 assist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Davies will have 6 dribbles.
6 dribbles. Yeah, he's averaging around 6 or 7, right? Okay. Gideon?
I have Davies assist.
Okay.
Rapids 55 to 60 percent possession held.
Wait, 55 to 60?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a
55
spread.
to 60, yeah. And then I think a red card will be handed out.
Okay, VAR or no VAR for the bonus point? Just kidding. So, red card to any team? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. For myself, I think an own goal will be scored by somebody.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. There was a yellow card. I did research on this yellow card thing. What do you think? Oh, it was a Jack Price yellow card. And I think we will have a Anthony Blundell goal. Yeah. So it's really getting competitive in this prediction game. You know, since the standings really tightened up, it's.
I'm pretty sure you're still ahead.
Just by 3. You could turn it around this week, or Gideon could catch up to me.
Has anybody gotten all 3 right? Yeah.
We had 2 out of 3.
Earlier in the year.
Did
yeah.
we? Did we have a 3 out of 3?
I don't think we've ever had
I think you did.
Me?
I thought. Maybe.
Huh.
No, Joe.
Well, I'd be surprised if Joe did.
Oh, thanks, Nick. Ouch. Well, yeah. Thank you for listening to the AFTN podcast. Gideon, where can people find you on Twitter?
_ Gideon Hill on Twitter.
And Nick?
Space Age Robot 56.
And before we go, because I always forget to do this, we have a couple of other questions. Let's just go through them because we have to be faithful to our fans. We had one question about traveling in England, which I don't know why you chose this podcast, but this podcast to ask. It was Ryan McLeod. He said, "What's something I shouldn't miss during my next 2 weeks in the UK?" He's not visiting Ireland, so I'm not going to answer this question. But he's making his way up from London to Orkney and then back to London. Gideon, come on, travel advice.
Ooh, mushy peas at a sketchy pub.
So just any meal, okay? Nick?
I would say the museums in London are fantastic.
Yeah?
If you're into that kind of stuff.
The London Eye, I've never been, but it looks really cool. The AFTN account has some questions. Oh, how long will it take Daniel Henry to get chemistry with the rest of the defense? I think he never will. What's your favorite simian, Nick?
What?
Your favorite simian?
Simian?
Like
ape?
Yeah.
I think gorillas are pretty cool.
Gorillas was on the list. Gideon, favorite simian? Don't say chimps because I have chimps.
Dang it. I'm not very good with. I'll just say monkey. If that's an option.
Your homework is to watch The Jungle Book this week. Yeah. Thanks for all your questions. They really make preparing for the show fun because we get to know what you guys are thinking, and then we can talk more about what you guys want to hear about.
Thinking of England.
Yeah, thinking of England. The Premier League is over, Ryan. It's time to move on. World Cup is in less than 2 weeks. And guys, Cincinnati have a team.
Yeah,
in the MLS.
crazy.
That's going to be amazing. Well done, Alan Kosh. I still think your best decision was not picking me for the Whitecaps Open trial. Best decision he made as a manager, I think. Well, thank you very much for listening to episode 272 of the AFTN podcast. Enjoy the game.
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.